Good evening and happy 7-1-6 day as it is July 16th here in Buffalo, New York. And yes, I said Buffalo because that's where we are coming at you live tonight from. As I was up in Buffalo earlier today, Zach and Bryce are unable to join the show tonight. And, you know, we've been having some service issues. So I hit up my good friend Jeff Brady, and here we are. We're doing the show live from Jeff's house. And Jeff, thank you for coming on the show. And thank you and your wife for allowing me into your home tonight.
Yeah, no problem at all for us. How many times is this? Is this 3 for us?
Yeah,
second or third
together, though.
First one together. Yeah. So instead of spending quality time with my beautiful bride, I will be spending it with another bearded gentleman. I'm psyched. But thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, for sure. We get more bonding time across from the table now, right?
Yeah, man. Instead of over your shitty Wi-Fi.
So let's hope that everything holds up tonight. You know, we have a new setting. We have some helmets. Jeff's former college helmets are here with us. We got a Fred Smirlis jersey. We got everything here. So hope everything is looking and sounding good. And we definitely want to hear from you guys. I see we already have people in the comments going here about DeAndre Hopkins. So let's just get right into it because that is the main topic tonight that we want to talk about. That was perfect timing. That couldn't have been any better. When I saw that today, my first thought was, okay, he didn't go to the Bills. But my second thought was, oh, my God, that is content fire for the show tonight.
I mean, I knew for sure that the Bills Mafia was not going to handle it well. At least some set of the internet of Bills Twitter was not going to handle that well. And, I mean, I haven't really seen a total implosion, but obviously people are going to have some feelings about it.
Yes, so we definitely want to hear from you guys tonight because that is going to be the main chunk of the show. Now, we are fortunate enough to also be joined by Kevin Massare and Tommy Giambra later. I'm sure a lot of you guys know them from Twitter Spaces, as we have all talked on there before, but this is our first time doing it live together on a show like this. Kevin Massare is also on Cover One, so it should be a really, really good discussion tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin has always been level-headed about the whole thing, especially with Hopkins. And to go to the opposite side of the spectrum, we have Tommy Giambra coming on from the Undercovers cast, who is one of the most unhinged individuals when it comes to championing DeAndre coming to this team. So we'll see if he's actually still alive after this devastating news. But I'm pumped to do it with him. I think it's going to be a good one.
And we definitely want to hear from you guys as well. So fire away with the chats. But before we get into that, we want to talk about my rankings with the cornerbacks because Kevin said that he is better to come on a little bit later. So we are going to save that. We're going to get the cornerback rankings out of the way now because the article just came out yesterday. I will drop the link this week. I forgot last week. So I will drop the link in the chat so you guys can follow along there. But Jeff, what are your initial thoughts of my rankings?
Well, I think it should be said that hey, we're gonna see a lot of guys this season, a lot of the rankings. We do have a Bills guy there. You seem pretty hopeful that at starting at number 10, Trey being back. But we have 2 guys from the AFC East. We have a few from the NFC East, and a couple teammates. So I thought it was a pretty good comprehensive list. I think there's relative value in where you rank them. I think everybody on that list deserves to be in the top 10 conversation. I just maybe shuffle some things around, but I think we can get into it. Number 10, Tre'Davious.
Yeah, so that being said, I mean, I did do some honorable mentions. So let's talk about those guys first because there were some guys that when I was looking at their stats, I couldn't believe, like someone like a Tariq Woolen. Do you know much about Tariq Woolen? Because he was drafted in the 5th round out of UTSA, and I remember a lot of Bills fans, myself included.
Is that the Roadrunners? University of Texas,
so, yeah. San Antonio. Right?
The Roadrunners, right?
Yeah. So he was that speed demon, that freak athlete, and we're like, oh, the Bills should take a flyer on him. You got to try if he's there. And they didn't. Seattle took him, and he, as I said in the article, along with J.C. Horn, no pun intended, but they took the bull by the horn. So Tariq Woolen, especially because J.C. Horn is going into his 3rd year. Woolen, it'll be his 2nd year. But, looking at some of their stats, those guys definitely deserve to be honorable mentions at least. I mean, some people are saying that he should even be top 10. I didn't want to do that yet because I think you need to prove yourself for a little bit. And that's part of the reason why I did put Trey in the top 10, just based on what we know. But someone like Tariq Woolen and J.C. Horn, if they continue with that success and that trajectory, they will definitely find themselves in the top 10 at the same time next year.
And I love a small school guy, especially at corner. Like you're talking about UTSA where they I think they're Conference USA. Obviously, clearly, I'm a small school guy playing at Monmouth, so I always root for them. I love that the Bills have taken flyers on small school guys like your Villanova cat, and also you included a guy like Bradbury out of Samford. So I love that there is always going to be a dynamic player, especially at the cornerback position, that you can find minted in that draft. And I agree, he's an honorable mention, and I think if he gets real playing time, he might crack your list, next year in the top 10.
So let's look at some of these stats here. So I did remember to put the link in the chat so you guys can follow along there. But in terms of Tariq Woolen and J.C. Horn, so Woolen, like I said, former 5th-round pick out of UTSA, he had 63 tackles, 16 passes defended, 6 interceptions, and he allowed just 51.5% of passes thrown his way to be completed as a rookie.
I mean, and those stats lend its hand to me that he's in the game in critical situations, and he's doing kind of a good job managing those situations, especially as a rookie. So I think there's nothing but upside in this guy's career, and just in his initial year to be a top 3rd player like in the league just by being an honorable mention on your list, I think that says a lot. There's a lot of upside on that.
And quarterbacks only had a 48.7 rating when they targeted him last year.
Man, that stands out on paper. It's not quite, you have to game plan around it, but you have to be aware of it.
And in terms of J.C. Horn, he allowed a 55% completion percentage, and his rating when targeted was 62.4. So not as good as Tariq Woolen, but still pretty good for a youngster.
I think you're doing as good a job being a stat nerd like Kevin Massare. Why are we even bringing him on if you're going to bust out all these stats? But yeah, I think they speak for yourself, and I think you properly rated him as honorable mentions.
Now, a couple other guys that were honorable mentions. This is the one that I had a hard time with. How do you feel about Marlon Humphrey? Because I tossed him around between him and Trey, and I think before we all know what Trey White can be. And Marlon Humphrey's been very inconsistent. Now, he did have a solid year last year, but I just don't know if he is solidified as a top 10 corner in the league.
He's a solidified tackler. I mean, anytime you have a corner, registering over 70 tackles
and 3 sacks.
So, I mean, they'll push the envelope with the guy. He's a utility player. I don't know if that's a bad. I don't watch enough games in Marlon Humphrey, but I don't know if that's a bad schematically that your corner's making, or maybe they just maybe he's just really in the mix and plays physical. But 70 tackles at a corner, that's nothing to sniff at. He's active. And I think that's a big part of utility. When you have a physical corner that's not scared to stick his nose and shoulder pads at a guy with the ball, that's big, man.
So we'll talk about Humphrey more when we talk about Trey White. Now, AJ Terrell, he was really good last year, as in 2021. But then in 2022, he really dropped off. So he finds himself as an honorable mention this year. Last year,
2021, was he an All-Pro?
Yeah.
He was not an All-Pro last year.
No.
He was he might not have been all-team last year.
He gave up 6 touchdowns, and quarterbacks had a 102 rating when targeting him. So light and day from 2021 to 2022 with AJ Terrell. But, based on what we know about Terrell, I think he still warrants at least an honorable mention, because last year, I don't have it with me right now, but I believe he was my 6th best corner. He was up there. Obviously, he's not top 10 as of right now, but I think Atlanta was pretty rough last year. They probably went through some different things here and there. I think he's at least an honorable mention. Now, I'm sure you could throw in some other guys like Denzel Ward, Xavier Howard.
Eli Apple.
Yeah, but Xavier Howard.
That guy's trash. I'm so happy. I had to lay it in there. I mean, I like that AJ Terrell isn't like a shining guy there, but he talked considerably less shit than a guy worse than him like Apple. So at least the guy is seemingly aware that he fell off and he needs to get back into it. But yeah, he's got to have a better year, man. It's tough. It's tough having an All-Pro year and then having such a down year like that, because there is some slippage in corner play, right? There was major slippage as Revis got older. There was major slippage. Hate to say it, as Josh Norman got older. There is slippage. And hopefully that was just that was an anomaly and not a trend as to where his play is headed, because he's going to be needed on that team.
And like I said, you could probably put. I know some fans. I see we have a Dolphins fan in here calling us clowns for having Trey White in the top 10. I'll take the heat for that. We won't lump Jeff into that. He wasn't part of the ranking, so I am the clown here. But Xavier Howard, he had a down year last year.
I would
Denzel
argue
Ward, he also had a down year.
I would argue you're more of a clown for ranking Jalen Ramsey that high. Not
Hey, don't spoil anything here.
Oh,
Although
damn.
I already did put the article in there.
Yeah. Well, some people should do their homework if they're watching the show. They should know that they're about to yell at you, so I don't have to. But you want to get in the tray?
Yes. So let me pull him up on here. Number 10, Trey White. So as I said in the article, I think some people, if you are a hardcore fan, now I should rephrase that because I think there are a lot of hardcore fans who don't want to sound too biased. So I have to be careful with how I say it. But I think there are a lot of people that would say, well, Trey can still be a top 5 cornerback. You can't drop him that far because we know what he can do. And how are you going to punish him for having an injury? That wasn't his fault. So I can see where you might want to rank Trey a little bit higher, but I can also see, like the Dolphins fan said in here, where you'd want to rank him lower, maybe as an honorable mention. When all the coaches and the executives came out with their list, he was an honorable mention. So I went right in the middle. I said, you know what? I think he's still top 10 based on what we know, what we've seen. He did put up some good numbers last year. He wasn't the Trey White that we once knew. We could tell that he wasn't himself.
And that's where I'm at with that, is that I think the ceiling has already been set. If he returns to that Trey White, God, that's dominant. But
and a healthy Kyer Elam, the two
Kyer
of them together
in tandem would be great, as well as like a solidified and a rejuvenated with the Rap signing, a safety play. But I think I hope I'm wrong. I think we've already hit the ceiling in terms of the apex of Trey's play. If he returns to that level, that's great. But how many people are going to be honest with themselves and still know that he's still serviceable if he doesn't return to that rate of play? But he's capable of it. But if we're honest with ourselves, not everybody's going to recruit from injuries like Von Miller does.
Yeah, I mean, Von's a freak. But, okay, so here are the numbers with Trey where I was thinking, okay, he really wasn't that good. The numbers probably aren't that good. But surprisingly, so he only had 20 tackles. That's not really anything to be too impressed with. But tackles, I should mention this now. Tackles probably aren't the best stat to go off of with defensive backs because I'll be doing safeties next week because that might mean that they're getting picked on a lot and quarterbacks are throwing their way. And if someone has a bunch of tackles, maybe that means their coverage isn't that good and they're allowing a lot of catches. And that's why they're getting the tackles. So Trey White, take it for what you will. He had 20 tackles, but only a 54.5 completion percentage. And his rating was 75.8. So not great, but I mean, only allowing not even 55% of balls to be completed his way.
I don't know how I feel.
I think that was better than what I was thinking going into it.
It's better than what I was thinking for sure, but I'm not going to write home about it. I'm not being critical. The guy's an amazing player, and I want him to get back to him, but I don't think he should be touted as that being off the paper stat. If we're going to go by stats, I mean, to see a guy battle back and will his way back in the fashion he did, like he's easy to root for. And I think maybe if we're honest, that's how he got number 10 on the list. But 54.5 is good, but it's not the all-pro Trey that we had before this unfortunate incident happened. And injuries happen. Nope, no one roots for him, and no one wants to see him.
Now, Trey did allow 244 yards and 1 touchdown on 18 receptions. So I think that was about 40 yards per game. I would have to check my math again. Like 35, 40. So, again, not his best. 2019, that was probably his best season. So he wasn't there, but I think he can still get up there. And that's why I have him at number 10 because there is still potential with Trey. Now, that being said, we might as well just get right into number 9 as this guy was also coming back from injuries last year. And actually, they had to shut him down. And this is Marshawn Lattimore. So this is another guy from the 2017 draft class.
Ohio State kid.
Yep. A lot of potential. He's done a lot of great things, but he only played in 7 games last year. Trey had 6. Lattimore had 7.
Kyer was shut down for a couple for the high ankle. Yeah, I mean, his body of work is pretty good, but this is another cat that's been in the league for a while. So how are you approaching a ceiling with him? I don't know. He's an 11th overall pick. He certainly played it like that for the most of his career. And I think he's properly rated. I think last year you had him 7 or 8.
I had him 8
last year. So he's
dropped 1 spot.
He's maintaining at a great rate, which is great.
So with Lattimore, he finished the season allowing 60% of passes to be completed when thrown his way, and his passer rating allowed when targeted was a 67.3. And over the last 3 seasons, so 31 games for him, he has 34 passes defended.
I mean, he'll go up, he'll defend it. He'll if ball comes within his wheelhouse, he's punching you out. Any idea?
One on Diggs on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah. But let's save Diggs clowning people for you ranking Jalen Ramsey too.
I think maybe that guy was actually a Bills fan because I said he was a Dolphins fan. I was trying to look at the comments. We got a lot going on here, so I'll try to catch up with those as we go along here. But either way, if you're a Bills fan, Dolphins fan, thank you for tuning in tonight. Once again, this is Kevin Syracuse with Jeff Brady here on Buffalo Fanatics. We got the BF Writers Club, episode 16. I just realized it's episode 16 on 716 Day.
It's a great college number if you wore it. Great college number.
That was your.
Was it Trey's number too? Well, it's definitely my number.
No, he was 18.
You believe they let people as fat as me wear 16? I played at a small school, so it definitely wasn't an XL jersey. Like I was spilling out of that thing.
Who was the last Bills player to wear 16? I feel like I should know this.
For some reason, Billy Joe Hobart. I know he probably wore 8 or 9. I don't know.
If anyone in the comments knows,
I'm sure at one of John Brown's 9 stints, he probably had to wear 16 at some point. No, he was 15. I
was thinking Justin Hunter, but he was 17 before Josh got it.
Let's keep it moving.
I think we should. Okay, so number 8. Now, we were talking about this a little bit before the show.
Yes, I hate you for this.
Okay, tell me. Trayvon Diggs.
How is he not the best corner on Dallas?
Okay, so you know what?
Let's just loop these guys together.
We'll lump them together. Stephon Gilmore, 7. Trayvon Diggs, 8. Now, what I was telling Jeff before the show is, right now, overall, I think Gilmore is still the better corner. And that remains to be seen what happens this year. But if you go back to 2021, Trayvon Diggs was either really, really good or really, really bad, where he was a ball hawk. He had 11 interceptions, but he almost allowed 1,000 yards in coverage. So he improved his overall game last year, but I still need to see a little bit more because Gilmore's numbers were pretty good for how many wins did the Colts have? There were 4-12-1, I think. So, that's probably a team where
they also had a guy. They picked a guy out of the stands to run the team, though. They're like, oh, hey, you're my drinking buddy. Why don't you be head coach?
So if you put up good numbers for the
fine.
Colts,
I'll give you that.
And especially the Colts were probably on the field more. Their defense was on the field more than their offense because Matt Ryan was getting sacked so often or throwing interceptions just because he was so immobile. So Gilmore was probably on the field more than he should have been.
Well, can we ask the comment section? I'm just curious, and this might lead to a mutiny. Can you press 1? Actually, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't let the patients run the asylum.
Well, yeah, let's hold it right there because Donna.
Just kidding, guys. They keep tuning in.
Isaiah Hodgins wore 16, right? Thank you, Donna, because
Donna, good call. What's up, Donna?
I knew it was someone recent, like a wide receiver, that we probably should have kept instead of favoring special teams. Moving on.
Or Tanner Gentry. Won't get into the roster, but
we have a little technical thing here. I'm gonna pull this up just so we're all on the same page. Jeff, try to keep the mic steady when you're talking. The volume level goes up and down.
Okay, I'm sorry. We'll
I
work
just
on
pulled
that.
it up not to.
No, I appreciate it.
I know I didn't do
I'm
that.
I'm a big dumb animal.
As an indictment on you. Not that we're ganging up on it, just so we all know.
Awesome.
Because that's a good technical bit of
so I yell at you
here from Major.
Thank you, Major. I appreciate that. That's
thank you.
Majorly helpful.
Again, this is our first time doing it together live in person. So if there's anything else that comes up, feel free to tell us. I'll just keep it respectful. But, we're here for, constructive criticism. So where are we at here? We already talked about Gilmore. Let me just go over some of his stats because he was pretty good. So he had 66 tackles, 11 passes defended, a 56.2 completion percentage allowed, and a 74 rating. And PFF gave him a grade of 79.1, which was his highest since 2019 when he was Defensive Player of the Year. So I think this is a guy that Chris Collinsworth, right? Now here's a guy that
the slide in.
I feel like, yeah. I think we think myself included, that Gilmore is probably on the downfall of his career. He's 33 years old now.
Third team,
and a lot
fourth
of
team,
us, myself included, again, don't like him after the whole Buffalo thing and how he chased the money. And to me, he never really tried that hard in Buffalo. He got penalized way too much. And of course, he was great for New England, right? You give him the money and he's great. But I think he's still putting up the numbers. And he's still, in my opinion, as you can see here, a top 10 corner. And we'll see, because 33 years old, I think Diggs can definitely take that top spot in Dallas. I think Trey White can come back from injury and he will take that spot over. I think even Marshawn Lattimore. So Gilmore might find his way out of the top 10 next year. But for right now, based on these injuries and what we know and the stats, I'll put him at 7.
Yeah. But isn't it kind of interesting, though? There does seem to be like a later career carousel with a lot of elite cornerbacks. Like, you saw it with his name escapes me. Long time Stanford graduate, long time Seahawk, long time Niner.
Oh, Richard Sherman?
Yeah, kind of like a team carousel. You see it now with Gilmore. You're kind of getting it with Ramsey now. This is his third team. Yeah. This is, if these guys are so elite, teams like that hang on to them. But I think for a 33-year-old, I'm 34 and I'm definitely, I don't even athletically get the mail very well. So for him to be, in and out of back pedals, no real major injuries, I believe.
Speaking of backpedaling, don't tell me that you're one of those that backpedals your vehicle to the mailbox. Can you at least walk to the mailbox to get it out?
Oh, no, dude. No, I have a circle driveway. So I just go in a circle. I don't ever use reverse. My neck from football doesn't go like that.
Oh, we got a buzzing noise. That might be the air conditioner. So thank you for another, putting that out there, because you guys are our ears. Hey, if we start sweating, that's why. And yeah, I look different with the hat on. I was up in Buffalo today. Like I said, I had some pretty bad hat hair. So I was like, you know what? I'll put the Yankees hat on. I think they hung on to win today in Colorado. So
yeah,
leave that on. I got a Bison's hat here too.
That's actually a Griselda hat. So if anybody's into Griselda.
Okay. So we did Gilmore at 7. Now here's one. James Bradberry, number 6. Now, when I was going into this, I didn't really think that Bradberry was top 10 right off the bat. Like, when you think top 10 corners, I don't think James Bradberry's name comes to mind, but his numbers were really, really good.
Small school guy.
Yeah, Samford, not Stanford, Samford.
The Bulldogs.
I don't even know what their last name is. That's how small it is.
I think the Bulldog mascot, not last name. So I think Sanford is the full scale. Yeah, man. Those small school guys, I love them. It's just like they're easy to root for at that position. There's some real gems, man. But yeah, like it's like the allowed passer rating was in the low 50s.
Yeah.
I mean, I just trashed
51.6.
I just trashed somebody else for that. But like, this is a small school guy adjusting to, big school talent. The receivers are bigger, faster, stronger. And, he didn't even make your list last year. Granted, he plays for a championship caliber team, but like to assimilate just on a roster that was very, very competitive last year. That defense was, that says it in itself. I mean, it's hard not to rank him. And also his teammate.
I was going to say that just ties into Darius Slay. We might as well get to him at number 5, because when you have someone like Darius Slay, you might want to pick on the opposite corner. So that would be James Bradberry, but he held his ground and still didn't allow many passes to be completed. So let's talk about Bradberry's stats here.
Hey guys, just quickly, did the buzzing go away?
He said at least there isn't a delay. Yeah, so hopefully we're good with those logistics. But yeah, if there's still buzzing noise, please let us know. It should be okay. But yeah, we'll Donna says no.
Donna, you're the best.
Yeah, we'll keep the comments on for sure.
You guys are being super helpful tonight. Thank you guys. And if you guys want to hear about anything, let us know. If you guys want to comment on this list, I think it's a pretty good list of things. But once again, his teammate, not to derail Slay.
Yeah, if you guys want to, keep talking here, I'm sure Jeff and his wife won't mind me staying until 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
We exited that lifestyle a long time ago, Kevin.
Okay, going back to Slay and Bradberry. So, okay, James Bradberry played 17 games, only allowed 382 yards and 2 touchdowns all season. Completion percentage against 45.3. And like I said, a 51.6 rating. So when you have someone like Darius Slay who's locked down,
but I think that's not even the headline. It was his play when it mattered, like in the playoffs. I mean, like he held people. They talk about Revis Island. I mean, like Darius Slay like took that to another level. This was like I don't think he let a receiver get over 50 yards on him in a playoff game.
You're talking about Slay?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me pull it up because I believe I put that in the article. Yeah, PFF said. Now this is a quote that I'm reading here. Slay allowed 54.7% of passes thrown into his coverage to be caught during the regular season and let up fewer than 25 yards in each of his 3 playoff games.
Fewer than 25?
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
A quarter, not 2 quarters.
Damn.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's
so for Bradbury to still put up those numbers when
because if they're not going to one,
yeah,
naturally you would think they'd have to go to another.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So how are we feeling about this list? I want to hear from you guys, chat. I see we have more people in the chat here. Might still be a buzzing noise. I'm not sure. Is there another fan going on? It's not the sign.
No, it might just be tech at this point.
Okay.
Put it this way. That's not we can audible right now. So
yeah. Well, like I said, I'm not too warm, so we're good now with that thing off. So, someone said sounds like we zapping bugs. Okay. Yeah. So how are we feeling? I want to hear from you guys, chat. How do we feel about this list so far? So we just went through the honorable mentions and then 10 through 5. Before we go through the top 4, how do you feel about it, Jeff?
I think
now that we talked it out and I explained myself a little bit more,
I have less. There's no glaring issues on this. I think it's just a touch of personal preference at this point. I think a lot of these guys are property related and deserve to be discussed.
Okay. Yeah, we'll wait for more comments to come in, but we'll move on to number 4 here. So at number 4, Patrick Surtain II. Now I've seen a lot of people saying that he is the top corner in the league, and we're gonna get to number 1 obviously because when you saw it, you're like, really? And I was like, I don't know if there's a clear-cut favorite for number 1 anymore. So I mean, do you think Surtain is properly rated here at number 4, or do you think he could be higher? 3, 2, 1?
I think one of the big things is like, a lot of quarterbacks realize that they're not going to have a super amazing time throwing his way. So that's kind of once you can be game planned around and you have to be focused about. I think that says a lot about his play. I think number 4 is a perfect rating, but it's also kind of amazing that he didn't even make the list last year. He usurps to number 4. I think that's great.
Now, that might be an indictment on me because maybe I wasn't doing my homework enough, but I think that was also because I looked at it and said, he's just a rookie. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. We can talk about him as an honorable mention, but I don't want to just say, oh, he had a really good rookie season. Let's just plop him in at number 9. So I think that's why I held him off the list last year.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, if he was omitted from the list, I think you're not. If the list wouldn't service anybody, but yeah, I think 4 is perfectly rated, man. Not to spend too much time on him, but yeah.
His PFF grade went from a 66.1 as a rookie to an 86.8. So I know some people, I don't think you're too high on the PFF grades, but
I am not.
Just to put it into perspective, because they take all the coverage grades into accountability here. That shows a vast improvement in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not a pro football focused guy. I mean, I respect anybody. Like Kevin will tell you, Cover One has their proprietary analytics, PFF has their analytics, but that's just me. I can't really talk to the eye test because I do not watch a ton of Russell Wilson games, just because just of the stink of what's currently on the franchise. But yeah, like I said, Patrick Surtain, you have to go with it. But kind of shifting with the Midwest thing. 3, Jair Alexander.
Real quick, before we get to that, Anthony has a question. He says, do you think that Bradbury and Slay could be a product of a stellar defensive line and one of the most complete defensive units in the league? And then he says, not discrediting either, just some food for thought. I mean, that is a good point to bring up because when you have a defensive line that wreaks havoc like that, they make things easier for the DBs.
Yeah, we were saying that before. Is that overall, this is an excellent unit. and Bradbury, like I said before, to assimilate into that role as a small school guy and be on a Fletcher Cox led defense. It's a testament to him. They're all cohesive things that go into the witch's brew. But yeah, Anthony, awesome point, man. Totally.
And K, I guess that's the name on here. K, it says PS2, Patrick Surtain II should be higher. So we have one vote for that, saying that he should be a little higher.
I always mess this up. Does that mean a higher number or like better?
I think he means higher as in he should be the number 3 or number 2 corner.
Yeah, that's my Asperger's coming out. Like I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna say open to interpretation. I'm glad you have a point. But that's me though. It's not you. I'm sure that's clear to everybody else but me.
Okay, so now number 3, as Jeff said, Jair Alexander. Now, this is a guy, maybe you guys can fill me in a little bit. Remember the jawing that him and Diggs did for the Sunday night football game? I don't remember exactly what happened, but remember they were kind of going back and forth at it. And then I think Diggs said something with his post-game presser.
Yeah, it just seemed like wild. Like you're going to see this guy like once every 4 years. Like what could you guys possibly have to argue about?
Yeah. Like I think it was just alpha on alpha.
Yeah, I guess. But like,
I want to prove that I'm the top corner in the league. And Diggs is like, no, I want to prove that I'm the best wide receiver in the league. And you're not going to come into my house on Sunday Night Football. And he's like, well, I'm going to show the world why.
Yeah. And Diggs is known to play fiery too, especially, that was a big game. I don't know if you went to that one. I was there.
Did, yeah.
And it was an all day, like it was late. Fans were there early. They're fired up. There's early pyrotechnics. And Diggs kind of gets in it fired up. I think Josh said that. This week, busting the boys, like sometimes you got to calm a guy down like that. But if he backs it up with his play and he's that fiery, like I have no problem, with the jawing and all that stuff. Do you remember the chain snatching incident? Who was it? Anybody can? Maybe it was Crabtree a couple of years ago, where someone was trying to snatch his chain. It escapes me who it was. I believe it was the Broncos.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but
as long as it doesn't go to that level, or the Josh Norman OBJ incident where it completely derailed the game.
Well, who was going? Was it Crabtree and Richard Sherman? Did they have beef?
I don't know.
I remember it was always Crabtree.
Someone in the comments will know the chain snatching incident. But
do
you remember, like I said, about being fired up between Diggs and stuff like that? Do you remember how much Josh Norman derailed OBJ for so many quarters? And it got to the point where they were just exchanging personal fouls the entire game and hitting each other late.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And that was one of the best Mike Francesa meltdowns ever.
Aqib Talib?
Yeah. Yep.
Anthony again. Thank you.
Genius. You guys are great.
See, that's why we had the chat here, the live chat.
Yeah.
So, okay, number 2. You laughed at me for this, too, so let's talk about it.
I didn't laugh. I hated you.
Jalen Ramsey, number 2.
Okay.
You said he should be number 8.
Okay.
You might have just been saying that, but...
I embrace debate.
Okay. Well, what do you guys think? I mean, is Jalen Ramsey still a top corner in the league? I think he is. I don't think he's number 1 based on what we saw last year. But you put him with Vic Fangio's defense now in Miami. Couple that with Xavier Howard. It's going to be pretty tough to play against these guys.
I mean, I'll admit.
He's definitely up there.
I'll admit I'm leaning into a bias. Because what Diggs did to him that first game of the season. Yeah. I mean, that's a real the opposite way. Guys got a Super Bowl. That's great. But, another guy, he's on his 3rd team. So how, at some point, like, you're on your 3rd team. If he got paid, all that stuff, which is great. But, people tend to like Sauce Gardner. I do not think Sauce Gardner will leave the New York Jets and be on his 3rd team by Jalen Ramsey's age. Jalen, he
was drafted in 16.
So 7th year.
Yes, I can't do my math.
Neither can I. But I think you see Sauce Gardner probably in New York into a 2nd contract and all that. And I just don't see Jalen Ramsey like still being the number 2. He's definitely known for calling people trash and everything like that. And I think the trash talking supersedes and outshines sometimes the play, because the trash talk has not always been backed up. But clearly you believe otherwise. So he is a 5th overall pick. Love it. But the trash talk has not always been commensurate with play, and that's why I have a problem with two. But then again, it's about what you produce on the field, not what you say in the paper. So.
Well, we have some people saying that I should switch Ramsey with Surtain, so I could see that.
Yeah, whoever said that, I'd be more comfortable with that.
Paul and Kay. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Ramsey because I feel like we just think, oh, Diggs definitely owned him in week 1, and Ramsey wasn't Jalen Ramsey.
Well, they attacked him.
Yeah,
they didn't shy away. They didn't wait for that. They created the opportunity. They attacked them.
Now, Jalen Ramsey, I will say, he definitely wasn't as good. But some of these numbers, like, okay, he set a career high in tackles with 88, career high with passes defended, 18, and he tied a career high with 4 interceptions. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, so those numbers would suggest that was one of his best seasons. And PFF graded him out well again, 86.2, but he allowed 659 yards in coverage and a career high 5 touchdowns. So that's the stat right there.
Some of them are long balls.
Like the Diggs one.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of in people's minds where it's like, okay, maybe he shouldn't be 2 because you don't see Patrick Surtain doing that. And again, I would definitely entertain that. But I think just based on what we know with Jalen Ramsey and the potential that I think he still has going to Miami now with Vic Fangio, I'm going to keep Ramsey at 2. I mean, it's kind of too late now. I mean, I guess I could go in and re-edit my article, but I have Ramsey at 2. And at number 1, I have, let me just pull up take off that comment so I can put the new banner up, and that is Sauce Gardner. And I felt kind of funny about doing this because, like I said last year with AJ Terrell, I was like, how do you really put this guy in the top 10? Like, show me a little bit more, show me you can do it multiple years, and it wasn't just luck your first year. But I think Sauce Gardner really is that good. And just because Ramsey wasn't the old Ramsey and Surtain was really good, but not like excellent yet, I don't know. I just couldn't put any of these guys, Jair Alexander too. I couldn't put them at number 1. And I think based on what we saw from Sauce, and I think he's only going to get better, which is scary, I put him at number 1.
I just want to see a bigger body of work. There's no doubt he's talented.
And that's the main reason why.
Yeah, I mean, just a bigger body of work. I mean, like, how do you defensive player of the year?
Well, no, he was rookie.
Defensive rookie of the year. I mean, that was a runaway
for defensive player of the year too.
Yeah, I just want a bigger body of work. Like, it's hard to hate that. It's hard to hate that Jets defense, man. It's just you're not gonna get that vitriol out of me because they're good, man.
87.9 PFF grade, first team All Pro, Pro Bowler, AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. He only allowed 53.5% of passes to be completed when thrown his way, and his rating was a 62.7. So like he graded out very well, pretty much in every statistical category.
Yeah.
And he had 75 tackles, a league high 20 passes defended, and 2 interceptions. So, I mean, he got it done.
Fuck. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah. I mean, I hate it. I hate it so much. Just want a bigger body of work, and I hope that just comes to a crashing burnout failure because that's just where my heart stays. But yeah, if he repeats this, I mean, you're right. And I don't think anybody can dispute that. He's playing at such a high level for such a young kid. And he's a kid.
Now, this is the main point that we want to convey here talking about these corners. Now, excluding Trey, because we obviously have Trey on our team. So out of these 9 cornerbacks, the Bills face 7 of them.
Yeah.
And Jalen Ramsey, we're going to see him twice. Sauce Gardner, we're going to see him twice. And a lot of these guys are on the list. We're going to see him duplicate times. Christian Gonzalez, a new rookie with New England. They always have really good defensive backs. I know it's New England, and Josh Allen has had his way. Same thing with Miami. He's had his way with the Dolphins.
I haven't checked the TV schedule or anything like that, but I swear I will lose it if Chris Collinsworth is calling the Diggs versus Diggs game. I will lose it. I don't want to hear him break that down any more than I want to hear like him. I shouldn't say that. Him scratch Patrick Mahomes' back anymore. You're bagging one break him. That would just kill my love for the game, and it would expedite my hate for Collinsworth.
Paul says, "What? Where's Jair Alexander? Sauce is overrated, in my opinion." I put Jair at number 3. I don't know if that changes anything for you, Paul, but I think I mean, we talked about Jair. I didn't really talk about his stats. Do you think that's a good spot for Jair, number 3? I had him at 2 last year.
Yeah, I think, but also be open and honest with yourself. Are the top 5 a little interchangeable? You're not so staunch that this has to be 5, this has to be 3.
I mean, but then again, I'm never like that. Like, I'm never one side too heavy. Just from having conversations with me, I always try to be in the middle. So if you tell me like, hey, I think you should switch this, I'm not going to say, no, you're stupid. Why would I do that? I would say, okay, we can at least talk about it and maybe we can come up with a happy medium. So, with the Surtain and Ramsey, if you want to switch them, sure. And I think I even put that in the article.
Why was Xavier Howard not an honorable mention?
His numbers were really bad last year.
Really?
Yeah. I was going to put him and Denzel Ward on, but I only had room for 5. I was working 3 other jobs at the time, and I was like,
okay, sweetheart.
I don't know
okay.
how much time I have to be writing honorable mentions here. So I was like, I'm going to leave him out. I'm sure I might catch some flack from some Dolphins fans, but I was like, we'll go with 15.
That's okay. They can't even sell at their stadium. So.
Okay. Let's see. I think there was something else. Oh, you said no one was going to see. Look at that. Is that a Franny and a Monmouth helmet in the back?
Yes. I played it. Let's not make it about me. Yes, that's accurate.
I'll say it.
No.
I
played at St. Francis. Yep. And then I played with Chris Hogan from Monmouth. Was briefly cut from the Chargers. Was there for 3 days. I think that's a story I probably tell too much. But yeah, that was I played for a while. Loved my time playing. I was the winner of a new shoulder and a new knee. They give that to you when you get a college scholarship, unbeknownst to most people. So I have a good orthopedic surgeon to thank and a mediocre college career to look back on. So, but yes, that is a Franny's thing. And if you want to check the record book, I was Catholic Defensive Player of the Year in 2005 or 6. I don't know.
Check him out.
Check that, home.
Look at that.
That's the butt. What?
Jeff is a real deal.
That's the buzzing right now that you guys are hearing is actually my ego just humming that someone actually took interest in my mediocre athletic career.
Okay, well with that, Tommy, give me a thumbs up when you're ready because we have Tommy Giambra. Like I said, you guys might recognize him from the Twitter Spaces. Is with my work schedule, I don't remember the last time I've been on Spaces, but I know you guys are in Spaces a lot.
I would implore anyone who really wants to learn or just wants a sense of really good football community, or just to blow off steam, hit up some of those Twitter Spaces because I've met some of the best people.
We literally met on Twitter Spaces after the Bills Patriots.
I mean, we tell everybody it was on Hinge, but yeah, we met on Twitter Spaces. I met Massare through it. Tommy through that, Donna, Anthony, and just to name a few. And there's some of the kindest and unique minds. There's people from California, from Utah on them. There's people that played high level. There's people that played low level. There's people that played college baseball on them. So yeah. So I think it's a really good sense of community. It's kind of one of the things that I hold near and dear of some of the people I've met and some of the things I've learned. Because you might think that I know a little bit, but I assure you, the more people I meet and the more perspectives I hear, I realize I don't know enough. So yeah, welcome, Tommy, I guess.
Yeah. Well, before we bring Tommy on, I just want to ask you one last thing. Do you remember who was in that space that night that we met? Now, we met at night, so this was before the game because I hosted a pregame space and then a postgame space where Jeff and I met. But on the pregame show, Deion Dawkins came on. He didn't come on. He didn't speak, but he popped in. He was hurt that week. And I was like, wait a second. Is this Deion Dawkins, the actual snowman?
Yeah.
I was like, what is he in the locker room? Like, hey, McDermott, they're talking about it. Because I think at the time someone was going off on McDermott and his game management issues and clock management. But then I was like, no, I don't think Deion traveled with him this week.
Yeah.
He must have just been chilling at home, just on Twitter Spaces.
Making a snowman. Yeah. I don't know. That guy is. Yeah. Get in shape. Please get in shape.
Okay. That being said, let's welcome Tommy Giambra to the BF Writers Club for the first time.
Tommy.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
There he is.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we're good. You can hear us, right?
You handsome devil. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's up, man?
How are you doing? Tommy's coming from Virginia, guys. So that's another thing with these spaces.
But
Takes all kinds.
I'll be up for training camp in 2 weeks, so I'm heading up to Buffalo next Wednesday.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
Look at that. We already got a comment. Tommy is awesome.
Thank you, Paul.
So, Tommy,
set the stage the correct way about Tommy. Maybe you set the stage as to Tommy has a podcast, Undercover Guests, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
I host a podcast with Ben, Jenna, and Paul, where we host on Mondays at 7. That called the Undercovers Cast. So we're on every Monday at 7. On this week's show, we're going to be doing our NFC power rankings. So y'all tune into that. That'll be interesting.
Awesome, buddy. And now, how are you doing, man, from an emotional standpoint right now?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than what is expected. So,
can you enlighten some of the listeners why I might be concerned about your personal well-being?
Oh, because I was all in on DHop to Buffalo. Is that why? Is that why, student?
Yeah, man.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but hey, let's just be thankful he's not going to the Patriots or he's not going to the Chiefs. So, there we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, real quick. I appreciate you guys coming at us with the comments. As soon as I click on one, the next one comes up, so I might be clicking on the wrong one. So let me just go through these real quick.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
We got a lot of Tommy Faithfuls coming in here. So I might have pulled this one up. Beth says, "Gotta need football back. The off season kills me." I think Twitter would agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, the non-news cycle has really made no news,
yeah,
so to speak.
So we'll leave it at that. Anthony says the GOAT Tommy looking like a stud, and then
You,
Chris. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'll just say thank you, Anthony.
Chris says training camp starts. I think he meant to say Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday for rookies, right?
Yeah, I think they
They're a week before, I believe.
I'm
I think
not even
that's
sure, to be
correct.
honest. So today's the 16th. Next Sunday will be the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we're almost there already.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, training camp is like
Within the next 2 weeks is starting.
I know.
Full out training camp.
I know, like some of us are like some removed from college, but imagine going back to the dorms, the single beds, eating in the cafeteria, like walking around campus, like sweating.
Well, I guess this is a perfect time for me to say, you guys know I'm from Fredonia, so I want training camp back in Fredonia because I would see them walking around town. Can you imagine if they were literally in my backyard?
That'd be cool.
How many years were they in Fredonia?
Can't remember when they got there, but they left in '99 when I was born.
Oh,
So for the longest time, I was saying they're cursed at St. John Fisher, bring them back to Fredonia, but then they ended the drought.
yeah.
So, I mean, my dad works at Coghlan's. I work at Coghlan's, the local bar in town,
Sure.
and they were in there every night. Just
I don't.
Kelly, Thurman, like all these
Yeah,
guys.
I think that's a different time
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, training camp sucks, dude. Like,
Yeah.
like one of the things that builds so much camaraderie is you're all going through the same hell. So there is an element of team bonding. You're all eating the same food. You're all caught in those meetings. Sometimes, I mean, when I was, this is college, but just getting the camaraderie of playing like video games together, just to wind down was amazing. And just knowing that like you guys are all going through the same hell and like you guys all want to make it out the other side together. So in this day and age, like I'm not sure how many Boilermakers these guys are gonna be polishing back at St. John Fisher's. I just think it's a different era, and plus the advent of camera phones. Can you imagine if you see Tyler Bass just absolutely like just getting rowdy?
I'm serving Tyler Bass. Yeah.
Like kamikazes. He's got like his shirt up over his head with face paint.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably not going to go over well.
Especially good about Turkey Burger Thursday, right?
Turkey
know
burger.
about that. I mean, a guy of my size should probably take a more like a stern look at the food options when I go to training camp. But I don't know about this turkey burger thing. Is it big with? It's big with like Mike.
I heard it was
and
an
stuff like
instant classic last year, guys. The
Yeah.
turkey burger. It was like an
that?
instant.
I mean, but like to go back to this, like you're going through hell, so those simple pleasures are really that's what kind of makes the bonding experience and an integral part of training camp is like you're gearing up. And I don't want to like get so proverbial as saying you're gearing up for war, but you're preparing for the long haul. I mean, the freshest you're ever going to feel is that day before contact. Once you start practicing contact, like it's all about like just managing and mitigating injuries. You know what I mean? So it's a tough time, but you know, it's an integral process into seeing what you're going to be about for that season and setting the tone.
Yep.
I don't mean to delay this DHop talk any longer, but I have 2 comments that I have to answer here. First one from Chris. Is Club 35 still open in Fredonia and Valentine's? I was in Valentine's last night, so Valentine's is still open. Club 35, strip club, became Lookers. It's been closed for like a year and a half, and they just announced that it is not coming back.
Oh man, so there goes another show sponsor.
Man, what are we gonna do? Now the other comment here is from Tanya. You need to check Marlon Humphrey's stats from last season. I think she said something earlier. Now let me go back to Marlon Humphrey real quick, because if I'm wrong, we'll own up to it here. I think we did mention some of his stats, but maybe I missed some of them. So he had 71 tackles, 3 sacks, and a 76.7 PFF grade. And he also allowed 64.3% of the passes to be completed his way. And his rating was an 83.8. And I would have to double check, but I think he gave up 1 or 2 touchdowns, maybe 3. I saw a stat where maybe PFF said he gave up 0 touchdowns, but then Pro Football Reference said no, that he gave up 3. So there might have been a little bit of a discrepancy there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I stand with Marlon Humphrey. I think he's right on the brink. You can lump him together with Trey and Marshawn Lattimore, 9, 10, 11. That could even be interchangeable. So, okay. Let's get on to DeAndre Hopkins. So, Tommy, do you want to start us off here? What were your initial thoughts with DeAndre Hopkins?
Well, Tommy, can I ask you a question, actually, Tommy?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Did you think, student? Yeah, I guess my name is on this. Whatever. Did you think it would happen, or did you just subscribe to the ethos that he was going to wait for a major injury during training camp to maximize his leverage against some of these suitors?
Yeah, I thought that he would have waited a little bit longer to sign. Maybe like you said, with somebody getting hurt. But I mean, then I was hearing steam about Tennessee. Like they said they offered him a really good contract, like better than what the Patriots did or any other team that was in on him. So I felt like, maybe Tennessee could just, snoop in and grab him before like the Patriots or the Chiefs. So I felt like all along, like it was down to probably the Patriots and Titans. But I mean, I think the Titans are probably a good fit for him. I mean, they still got Derrick Henry and they have some other good receivers. So, I mean, we'll see.
For his wallet.
Yeah, good for his wallet. Yeah, true.
Yeah, and I always subscribe to, like, if you're going to panic first, and I thought that was the OBJ signing. But it turns out I don't know the math. I should probably ask Kev because he's the nerd. But I mean, that's
me or
Kevin sorry,
Massare?
Kevin Massare.
Okay, so I'm not a nerd. Good.
Well, yeah, we can move on. But that's a good chunk of money, man. That's a really good chunk of money.
It is.
But what I was saying, and Tommy, you've heard me say this before, is that where it landed with me, and I'm a little bit of a repetitive guy, but when I have a thought that I think is reasonable, I tend to double down on it. And my feeling always was, and Tommy, you're shaking your head yes, because I think you know what I'm going to say, is that it wouldn't alter my day too much. And this is before today's signing. If he went to the Titans, it wouldn't alter my day too much if he went to the Chiefs. It wouldn't alter my day too much if he went to the Patriots. And so why should I freak out if the Bills don't get him?
Right.
That was just where I landed personally with it. That was the way I worked through it and stuff like that. So now that the Titans get it, it does seem like we see them every year, and it'd be naive to think that we don't have a chance in seeing him at the playoffs, stuff like that. But I think it was disingenuous, the win now. I wanted ring chase, ring now.
Yeah.
That was disingenuous. Because like there were going to be some concessions if that was truly like your ethos. Like if you really wanted to win now, you're not going to get that contract. So clearly, you can negotiate in the media because, everyone does. Everybody's got to cook your own book when there's, and there's a bunch of jerks like us breaking down everything you do. So you always got like your Buffalo Soldier, and obviously, Vaughn negotiating for, his buddies. So you got to cook your own book. But I think it was he leaned in a touch too hard about ring chasing, because that contract and the team more. I don't know what's more telling, the team he signed with or the contract he signed, that is more against the whole ethos of ring chasing.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'll give my take on it. I really didn't care that much. I saw the news and I was shocked because I didn't think that I was going to look down at my phone at 2:30 today or whatever time it was and see that DeAndre Hopkins was going to Nashville of all places. So my first thought was, okay, he wants some money and not a ring. But then my other thoughts were, okay, you know what? I'm not that mad that he didn't come to Buffalo, and I'm definitely happy that he didn't go to Kansas City, because I think with DeAndre Hopkins on the Titans, the needle doesn't move. If he went to Kansas City, the needle totally moves, and the needle's already up there with Kansas City. If you give Patrick Mahomes, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Kelce, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because if they won the Super Bowl without him, what are they going to do with him?
With him, yeah.
So when I saw that he went to the Titans, I was like, this really might be best case scenario if he doesn't sign with Buffalo, because I didn't want him to go to Kansas City. I didn't want him to go to New England just because a divisional opponent, they're stingy, they're annoying. Belichick might figure out a way to make him good, and he could potentially put them over the edge, not in terms of a Super Bowl contender, but just in terms of being that annoying little pest.
There is that tinge of reincarnation of Randy Moss finishing his career with a Patriot, right? Yeah. So that's I kind of vibe with what you're saying with the Belichick thing. But
I don't need the Patriots to get a new shiny new toy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, if anything, perfect. Go down to Tennessee. I know it's an AFC opponent, but if you want to throw in Baltimore, I was thinking maybe there's a chance, because Baltimore was supposedly in on him, but then they got OBJ, so you didn't think he was going to go there. So I said, okay, you know what? If DHop is not going to go to Buffalo, then out of those teams, you can go to Tennessee, because the needle doesn't move. That team still goes through Derrick Henry. They still have Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. Maybe Will Levis, a rookie. Malik Willis, who knows what's going to happen with him. Mm-hmm. So to me, DeAndre Hopkins is going to get paid, but not to win.
But
so you know what? Fine.
There is a team that is paying him or eating $23 million for him not to be on the roster. Did we lose Tommy? There is a team, the Arizona Cardinals, that is eating $23 million for him not to be there.
Yep.
So where's his level of play going to be if there is a NFL team paying him not to be there, basically, proverbially?
Yeah.
So are you saying like another team besides Tennessee?
I don't know. I'm just trying to say as many controversial and wrong things before we welcome Massare, because I'm sure he's going to shred me.
Like, Kevin Massare is in the background,
for like
Tommy,
Buffalo,
go ahead, and then we'll bring Kevin on in a few minutes.
No, I was gonna say for our fan base, I think Tennessee was the best destination for him to go to. I think, just because we don't play them, and like really, how good do y'all really think Tennessee is going to be in the AFC? I mean, the AFC is loaded this year. So many good teams, you know.
The last thing I'll say before we bring on Kevin Massare, we haven't really made this point yet. I've been thinking about it, but we really haven't had the opportunity. So I'm going to say it right now.
Mm-hmm.
People are writing off the Bills already. The Bills are underdog. And you know what? I love it. I love being the underdogs, because it seems like the Bills can't handle being the top dog. And people say, oh, the Bills are the Super Bowl favorites, and they get too cocky. So you know what? Don't give me DeAndre Hopkins. Give me Justin Shorter. Give me Gabe Davis in year number 4. Give me Trent Sherfield. Give me Deontay Hardy. Give me James Cook. Give me Nyheim Hines. We have the pieces. Let's go with that underdog mentality. And I think that we can really wreak some havoc. We don't need DeAndre Hopkins.
McDermott loves leaning into that too, like the underdog mentality. He really loves that. I mean, I think this is the arguably the best team we've had, but on the flip side of the coin, we have the most questions that we need to answer about who we're going to be.
No, I think DeAndre Hopkins would have been nice. Speaking of that needle, it definitely would have pushed the Bills' needle even further. But again, going based on that underdog mentality that I was just talking about, we don't need DeAndre Hopkins. It would have been a nice accessory, but we have the pieces. Now we just need to put it forth and have Ken Dorsey do his job, call the right plays, spread the ball around, stretch the field horizontally and not just vertically. And I think this team is going to be a force to be reckoned with once again.
I agree.
And I think this team is about to get a little bit better because I think we're going to welcome on Kevin Massare now to the podcast.
What a segue.
I know, right? I was sitting on that for a while.
Hey, Kevin.
What's going on, fellas? How are we today?
Dude, are you clean shaven?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say so, my friend. I would say I have some nice scruff. It's so
nice to talk to another Bills person about their facial hair, and it doesn't have to do with Josh and like what he's rocking on his Instagram. So,
yeah,
all right,
very true, very true. Yeah. Absolutely, Yankees hat as we falter in there, but that's a story for a different day.
Yeah, I lost that parlay that I was cooking up for you, Kev. So, all right, man, where do you sit with this, dude?
Well, look, if you think about the Titans from a perspective of, I'm one that thinks that division is wide open. Like, I don't believe that it's the Jags. I've heard this number 1 seed talk. I've heard, throughout spaces and other analysts say that this team is guaranteed to win it. Well, Tennessee doesn't agree because they just went out with a win now move. 2 for 26, a fairly sizable deal. I'll have to break down exactly how many void years are going into each one of those years for him. But they didn't have a ton of cap to begin with, and underratedly only $7 or $8 million. So it wasn't like they were coming in like the Patriots at around $20 million. So they have to make some decisions on how long they're going to actually extend that deal out. It's a win now move. They feel that their division is very much up for grabs. I'm one that says all the time that I'm with them. Like, I don't believe that the 9-8 Jacksonville Jaguars, whose division was worse last year, is going to do much better than that. So to me, I have a feeling that it's a good move. If look, they need to put people in the seats. And I was told last week by players that I trust that Tennessee was the selection. I've told people that last week. But it's a simple move on the fact of this is still a marketing play. People were down on the Titans. I've seen them 15th, 14th on different rankings lists in the AFC. It's just not true. That division's weak. I don't know how good Jacksonville's defense is going to be. I like the quarterback. I like a few of their weapons. But there's definitely question marks surrounding that entire team. And the Titans, with a great coach, and Mike Vrabel's one of the best, he can really turn this thing around to where it was like a half of a year downfall. Team almost made it with Malik Willis at the end of the season to beat Jacksonville. It wasn't for a fumble. Right. The division's not going to be worse than that, no matter what anyone says. And that Jacksonville defense is still bad. So I think it's a good move from the perspective of if I'm a Titans fan. I don't like the Titans at all personally, but if I'm a Titans fan, I get it. They want to put people in the seats. They struggle. Away fans take over at times. So I get that they would want a marquee name to match up with Derrick Henry. And this is all signs are pointing to Ryan Tannehill, and we can knock him, but when he's healthy, he's serviceable to, he sneaks his way up into the top 15.
He can manage a game.
He can.
You have Derrick Henry. You can afford to have someone like Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, when you have a running back that commands you putting 8 in the box, and now you've just added a weapon that discredits the safety, like going up over the top as easily when there's clearly a perennial running back that could be handed off the ball. Man, maybe you changed my mind. Like, that was well said. And speaking of asses in the seats, Kev, that's why you're here tonight, bud.
That's all I try to do. I try to be the talent. I try to bring people on and have great.
That was a good point. I might. Man, you might have changed my mind.
Well,
and look at it from a Bills perspective too. Like,
hang on, Kevin, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we get into the Bills perspective here, let me tie your point into a point that I was making earlier about the needle moving. So I agree. I think that this is a win now move for Tennessee because they think that with Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and the team that they have in place, tough defense, Mike Vrabel, he always gets the best out of them. You think you can go win that division. But for me, at least, the needle doesn't move in terms of the Super Bowl. I think this could be a first-round exit team. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is putting them over the edge where it's like, oh, we need to really watch out for Tennessee in the playoffs now. I think he'll be a nice piece, but I'm not scared of the Titans. Would you guys agree with that?
I agree.
I couldn't be less scared of the Titans. In terms of from our division's perspective, I don't think any of the needles moved at the top of the AFC at all. But I think it's moved in the middle of the AFC. I really do. I mean, I had them not far away from a playoff team. I really didn't. And now I think that not that I've always been on the record saying even the best receiver like Justin Jefferson in the league moves the needle analytically 1 to 1.25 games. So how much does DeAndre Hopkins move the needle? 0.75 games at best.
Yeah.
But I think there is that margin of error in the AFC South. So to me, I don't like Jacksonville. So to me, I think it's a needle mover in terms of you win that division, you're the 4 seed. So I mean that puts you at the top of the AFC automatically, and having a home game. So it's right there for them. If they were in a tougher division, the Titans say they were in the AFC East, they don't make this move.
I agree.
Say the last part again. They don't do what?
They don't make this move because the reason for this move is winning your division and getting a home playoff game. That's what puts people in the seats.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's take a look at their wide receiver depth chart because they were razor thin before the signing. Their top dog, and I don't even know if I want to call him a dog, their top receiver was Treylon Burks. And then it was Nick Westbrook-Akini, Kyle Phillips, the slot receiver from UCLA. They drafted him last year. And then Chris Moore. I mean, these are just stereotypical names at this point. So speaking of filling the seats, you had to fill the depth chart as well.
True.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an interesting that it is a two-pronged approach because is it still Nissan Coliseum? Not can't be Nissan Coliseum,
Nissan
Stadium or whatever. Man, I've gone to a couple of those Bills games. I think Kev's gone or Massare's gone to a couple of those too. It was $38 for the 100 level, and it came with a cowboy hat. Like there were just not too many people attending and getting excited about Titans football. Also, we're getting DeAndre Hopkins in a throwback Oilers uniform this year. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of spicy. I'm not going to buy the jersey, but like, I mean, I would think. I mean, just to stick with the Titans and a little subset, I think that Oilers helmet is one of the toughest helmets that has ever come out of the AFC.
Yeah,
I do like Pat Patriot, and I know people will hate me for that, but so. Kev, you're expanding on a point before, but I think we cut you off a little bit.
Yeah,
do you remember what that was?
You were talking about the Bills. Now, let's get into the Bills.
In the context of the Bills,
how this affects them, and maybe if you want to get into the cap part of it, because I think that's definitely a point that we need to talk about as well. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, from a Bills perspective, you look at it, and we were told earlier this offseason that the Bills were looking into moving some money around with Trey White's deal. They looked into some medicals there. And for a reason, and we have some people that we trust highly, between Cover One and then some other people we all know, insiders related, that said the Bills moved some things around to check out some more of his medicals, how he did postseason. And there's a reason for that. Why would they need to move money around? What were they thinking about? Were they thinking about needing that money if someone came available? Later down the road, come Hopkins, or were they looking for the money for a current player on the roster, Gabe Davis? I think this bodes well for Gabe Davis and everything that I've heard this offseason in terms of them still working out numbers to negotiate a contract extension. They got it done with that Oliver, which kind of bit into him a little bit. But I think with the Gabe Davis extension, you don't want what happened with Tremaine Edmonds to have a really great 4th year, Tremaine 5th year. And, price is way out. You want to get him at an Allen Lazard or less type of deal. And you want to sign him now when, he's willing to accept that type of deal that's not going to massively put you under the radar. So to me, I think that this fully accounts for Gabe Davis. I think that money was always in the back of the Bills' mind when they probably heard the Titans went up to 2 for 26, that they're like, this is going to bite into Gabe Davis. I'd rather move 26 mil there than I would potentially with a receiver who, by all accounts, there's been some challenges right now with how well he can run routes. So we have to see that in Tennessee too. So there's definitely been some scouts who have said that route running still has the hands, as well as anybody, and still can compete and do some of those things in the locker room. But how well can he separate? And we all know Josh Allen likes separating receivers. So there's always going to be a systematic difference in how DeAndre Hopkins plays to how Josh Allen likes his receivers. That's, and they already kind of went that way a little bit with Dalton Kincaid. So I don't believe there was a full great fit in Buffalo, but I do believe that money is going to now be moved around to Gabe Davis, and everything I've heard this offseason. they're presenting numbers back and forth. So this probably only fuels that now they don't need to save $10 to $20 million on the side for potentially a receiver 2 for a 1 or 2 year deal.
Kev, and you're kind of tied into a lot of the back end stuff like that. How much can we once again learn from this about people cooking their own books and being their own advocates, ring chasing, I just want to win, or alluding to lyrics and stuff like that. I think a lot of our fan base kind of has difficulty trying to compartmentalize about what's real, what's not, what can we trust as a sign of what's going to happen. What do you take away from this? Was it disingenuous to say you're ring chasing, or do you think it's just all part of the framework of the new NFL and how we negotiate deals and new teams?
I have a slight problem with it in terms of, I think when you consistently, and Brandon Beane will tell you this too, that, you're using the Bills to leverage yourself. I don't love it. From a business perspective, maybe I would do it too if it was me. But in terms of how I look at it and view it, I don't really like it. I think he was disingenuous in what he originally made the list. Does any of them get checked off? Maybe beside a good coach? I don't think any of the list gets checked off. None of it. So from a championship team to the quarterback, and I just kind of praised Ryan Tannehill, but not from the list that DeAndre Hopkins made. Consistent winning. Like, I guess the Titans were there a little bit, but you can't after last year put them there after losing to that Jags team that I don't like very much, and having issues across the board. So twice to that Jags team. So I don't believe he checked any of this list off at all. I think he was disingenuous. It's one thing chasing the money. It's another to be disingenuous while doing it. I didn't love the way it started in terms of what he was doing. I do think he was a little bit better than what OBJ did, acting like he was ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Acting like he was ready to go for the playoffs and going on tours and private chefs in Josh Allen's house, whatever it might be. And in Dallas, Jerry Jones just came out and said, like, nah, dude, you're not healthy. What are you doing here? Which is kind of brash. But I appreciate the honesty.
I mean, it certainly was a departure from what you normally saw, because all you saw was people advocating like he's going to pick it. He went from he's going to pick a team based on who wins this game to Jerry Jones being like, this dog, you ain't playing this year.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what happened, and everyone was like, "Ooh,
it was like old man refreshing."
Yeah, I mean,
right? Yeah.
Jerry Jones is also the guy that'll hold up his draft board, so you didn't really know exactly what was going on. But I don't love it. Like, from a perspective of it doesn't look good from the player. It doesn't look good on your agent to kind of leverage teams like that. And I know Brandon Beane's a negotiator that says like, look, I'm not having it. Like, you're going to come to me and negotiate with only me, or I'm not giving you a real number. And I know that with confidence, that's how he negotiates.
Yeah, and he's well established on the record. Like, it's almost like the U.S. Like, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Brandon Beane doesn't negotiate in the media.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Now, Kevin, refresh my memory, and for people in the chat who are maybe a little bit, I don't want to say confused, but maybe have forgotten. What was DeAndre Hopkins' list?
His list of, so he wanted a top flight quarterback, a team that consistently wins and wins in the playoffs. He wanted top flight defense. He wanted a consistent and winning coaching staff. And then he wanted to be paired alongside another valuable receiver.
So that's where you're saying he was disingenuous, because did he really check that off in Tennessee? No.
You checked out the coach?
I mean, like all those terms that lends its hand to like, hey man, I'm really about the team, and it's like, it's okay to say you're about the deal. I'm never going to fault anybody for getting getting paid. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to like kind of mask your what everybody just assumes is good business. And I think negotiating, to Kevin's point, not, I don't want to say in bad faith, but like kind of disingenuously, I think that's the word of the night. It's kind of gross. It's not kind of gross, but it's, I'm not left with sour grapes. It's just, I kind of knew this.
You can get paid, but you don't need to be disingenuous while doing it. That's my opinion. Like,
cosign, clip it. Like, agreed.
Like, you can do whatever you need to do to get paid, but don't leverage other teams. Like, look, it's your reputation, it's your agent's reputation, and ultimately, you just need to make sure that you're negotiating in faith of like actually considering the Bills, or can like all this talk about Chris Jones extension that's going to happen, and he's definitely going this year. I didn't hear a single lick of that the Chiefs passed, 2 months ago. So when it comes to the way that this went down, I think he always, after the two teams wanted to bring him in, and that was telling to me that, that was your market, man. And the Titans did kind of what the Ravens did and said, we really don't have a receiver. We have a receiver 2. We like promising receiver 2 maybe, but we really don't have much else. So they paid him for it. And right now I think it's a matter of that's a big deal for being July 16th, 2 weeks before camp, and question marks about your route running. And DeAndre says he's not going to play if he's not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. Is he going to be a 1,000-yard receiver in a rushing offense with Ryan Tannehill? Well, we'll find out in December.
Yep.
Now, you talked about his list in terms of what he wanted to get from the team. What was his list in terms of teams? Because remember, we saw all those things on social media where it's like, oh, DeAndre, can you like point your finger, close your eyes and point your finger to the team? Like it was something stupid like that. But I think the Bills were number 1, right? Maybe the Chiefs came on there. Like, did he have a list of teams? Was there like a constructive list that he was going off of?
He definitely did some performative teams of where he didn't want to go. He did some performative gestures.
He made that face for New England. Remember, he's like,
yeah.
Ask Tom. Tommy's been following along the DHop saga for, him and the crew have been following that along since March, really. So, Tommy, what were some of the teams that would have checked the criteria for DHop?
I think that the top 2 teams would have been Buffalo and the Kansas City. I think if that's where he wanted to go win. I mean, podcast he said his number 1 quarterback he wanted to play for was Josh Allen.
Yeah, he said Allen and Mahomes, right?
Yeah,
did he ever say I want to play with Ryan Tannehill?
I don't think he ever did. I don't think Tannehill was ever on.
There's your point about being disingenuous, right?
But not exactly, because like you don't have to say any of these things. Look at Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
like, he's not out there tweeting lyrics and all that other stuff, and saying I don't want to be. I guess he did say he didn't want to go to Miami, but maybe it's a new negotiation, new NFL. Maybe Kev. Maybe we're the older guys in the room. Like maybe we're turning into the curmudgeons. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then again, these are guys that are our age negotiating like this, and it's just
no, dude. I don't mind negotiating, and don't get me twisted. I don't mind the negotiation.
It's just at it's at the expense of others or teams.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just like be honest, and I think even Brandon Beans admitted to I see some comments in the chat room about like that's how it works. It's not how it works. I promise you. The GM is frustrated at the negotiation tactic. The team that you I think follow is frustrated that they're always brought up disingenuously in contract.
I mean, look at the way Bean combated AB when he kind of like went off the rails about like I ain't going to all that stuff. Like Bean definitely is super on record that he does not enjoy being put in a situation of disingenuity and feeling like he's a pawn and even in a game of, because it is a game of chess, but like you don't what's this thing cutting off your nose to spite your face, like these are just like unnecessary slights and moves.
Yeah,
ultimately you're gonna go where you want to go. But
real quick, Donna's coming in with a super chat here, so appreciate that, Donna. Thank you very much, and thank you
Donna,
guys for tuning in tonight. Once again, this is episode 16 of the BF Writers Club right here on Buffalo Fanatics. This is your host, Kevin Syracuse. The co-host tonight, Jeffrey Brady. And we have a couple of guests on. In the right corner, top right, is Tommy Giambra. And then right in the bottom is Kevin Massare.
Yeah, Giambra coming from Undercovers. And obviously Mr. Massare is coming from Cover One.
Yep.
And I'm just unemployed in my home.
Who needs spaces when you can do it right here, right?
Yeah.
This is not a return invite, dude. But yeah, thank you both of you. Thank you both for coming on, man. This has been kind of refreshing. Kevin Massare, you did change my mind a little bit in terms of how wide open maybe, and how maybe this does it does put ass in seats. I did think about that, but like the Jacksonville point and how maybe it's not a foregone conclusion that they're Tennessee's a write-off.
Yeah.
Damn, that changed me. What'd you think? That moved your needle at all, Tommy? Did that make you think differently at all, or because?
I mean, yeah, I like that point. I mean, why would Tennessee do it if they were gonna have a losing season? I mean, it makes sense. So Tennessee must think they can compete for that division.
Yeah.
And I think the weakness of Jacksonville is their defense. So like, if they feel like DHop can run against that defense and beat their corners, then why not go for it?
You don't want to see the DVOA on their defense, that's for sure. It's not good.
Get it out. There you go.
So before we end, I just want to tie this back in with the Bills here while we're on the Bills theme. And since this is our first time really together on a platform like this, what do we feel about the Bills offense? Because I saw some people in the chat were talking about it. So the Bills have Dalton Kincaid, and I'm not comparing Kincaid to Hopkins, but the Bills might have looked at that and said, okay, we drafted Dalton Kincaid. We signed Trent Sherfield. We signed Deontay Hardy. We have all these pieces, James Cook, Nyheim Hines. We got him back. We have Damian Harris.
Brandon Shell's competing with Spencer Brown at right tackle. I don't know if you guys read that one.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there's competition. There are bodies all over. And to my point earlier, I don't think Hopkins was needed. I think it would have been nice, but I don't think that this offense necessarily needed him. So how do you guys feel about that? How do we feel about the Bills offense in 2023?
Well, can I pose a question to you three?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's up?
Is this our final form? Is this what we got?
Yeah, I mean, other than a couple of maybe bottom tier signings here and there, I don't think there's going to be like a big splash move. I think this is pretty much it.
Tommy, what do you think?
I think they're gonna have 100% trust in the Gabe. I think this is gonna be maybe Gabe's breakout year. I think it's gonna.
But you think this roster is taking almost its final form on offense? We have who we have. That's where you're going with.
I think
Kevin,
so.
What do you think?
I don't believe there's a move in the cards. I think they're going to move some money around to make sure that they can keep some of their existing players. But they go to camp in a position's obtusely weak. I don't put it past them if Damian Harris goes down early to make some calls to running backs or whatever. But I certainly think that they want to get better, especially if they go around the league and if Dalvin Cook calls them back and says, "Look, my deal's $3 million right now. What are you guys thinking?" Don't ever count out the Bills for adding a talented player to their roster. That single-handedly, I watch. It's on my mind. I rewatched the Bills-Vikings game, and without Dalvin Cook, they don't even get close in that game. I mean, Kirk Cousins was hurting. He wasn't doing good at all. Literally told Justin Jefferson, "I'm just throwing the ball in the air." So just across the board, Dalvin Cook was the reason that was a game, and that was a big long run. And the Bills could heavily use that in the circumstances where they run him. If he gets a medium-sized deal, it's not even remotely realistic. But you never know. You go into camp, someone's hurt, someone gets dinged up day one. I don't know. But for the most part, the roster's done. But I'd never count out the Bills and adding to the offensive side of the ball.
Now, this is a really good comment here from Anthony that we definitely need to touch on.
Anthony's had some great comments tonight.
Yeah. We've had a lot of great comments tonight.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening.
So he says the addition of Kincaid and Hardy has prevented this scheme teams have drawn up with bracketing Diggs. You'd be paying $13 million for a player that doesn't add anything to our offensive philosophy. I agree. I mean, I think he would definitely add to the offense, but with the word choice that he used, philosophy, I think what he's getting at is the Bills hopefully realize that they can't do everything vertically and just feed Diggs or whoever that top dog is down the field. You need to do more to open up down the field. So that's why you get guys like Kincaid and Hardy and Sherfield to work the middle of the field. And that's my point, saying they didn't need Hopkins, because if Ken Dorsey had DeAndre Hopkins, he would not have learned anything. Where everything that he would have learned, he would have just reverted back to his old ways and said, okay, let's play smart, not conservative, 40-yard bombs. Not Gabe Davis anymore, DeAndre Hopkins.
Just me personally, I would just never lean into a guy who's never taken an NFL snap before in terms of adjusting or shifting like our overall philosophy.
I think they're really high on Kincaid.
Yeah,
be it as is may, he has not even laced up a cleat for an NFL game. So I think our philosophy is a lot more ironclad than anything. And I don't think a guy who hasn't played yet puts a dent into where we're going. And he certainly has not been around for where we've been. So that's the only knock on that comment. Other than that, Anthony, I thought that was decently brilliant. If any of you guys want to chime in on that.
Yeah, Kevin and Tommy, what do you think? Because I think this is a great talking point because, again, great comment from Anthony. And with Jeff's point, how do you guys feel about this?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, the Dalton Kincaid situation is interesting to me. I just think he's going to get around 40 catches. So I think that's
big number.
I think it's going to be a big number, but I don't think it's egregious. I think it's going to be one that is heavily utilized in this offense. The Bills have been looking for a power slot for a while now. They really need that hands receiver who can beat man coverage. And he's excellent in against man coverage. His stats pop against man coverage, and he's going to be able to find seams. He's going to be the reason that they like him too, is how well he's in against the zone coverage too, which the Bills see a lot of two-eye shell. So he's going to be able to find those soft zones, sit in them, and make the catch when Josh comes in hot, heavy, or on the run. So, you needed a player that could beat man. Beasley could beat man. You needed a player that could beat zone. Beasley, not great against zone in a lot of categories, but was still a nice safety valve. And then you had Isaiah McKenzie, who didn't know what to do against zone coverage. So ultimately, there's a lot to like about Dalton Kincaid, and I like Hardy. He's going to be a receiver 4 in this offense, do a lot of different things, and don't count out Trent Sherfield. He is exactly who Josh Allen likes. We get all the reps in the slot right now, from what I was told, and did really well in Miami last year and he beat out overpaid Cedric Wilson in Miami, heavily overpaid.
Heavily.
I mean, he got a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
and let's not forget Khalil Shakir too.
Yeah, can't forget about Khalil.
He's got to find a niche. He can't be in no man's land, kind of like what Kevin alluded to with Isaiah McKenzie. Yeah. I mean, you could argue Beasley had a niche of getting small in confined spaces, but when there's a breakdown, it did not seem like there was any cohesion between Josh knowing and that mind mouthing sometimes you'd see with him and Knox. But I agree with Kevin's point. Yeah. But I am hopeful about Shakir. Anything he puts on tape, I don't think is regrettable, and I think anything that will make him valuable. Anything he lacks is teachable. But yeah, McKenzie, face of the franchise, I get it, but I also get why he's not here anymore.
Right.
The Colts already drafted over him too, so just never forget the Colts drafted Josh Downs over him within 1 month.
Yep.
Yeah, Tommy. So, what are your thoughts on Anthony's comment, and then what Jeff was saying with Kincaid and the youngsters really not making that much of an impact? Just if you could encapsulate all this, how would you phrase it?
I think, with not getting DHop, but you have Kincaid and Hardy. I think, like I said, I think that's going to leave Josh still with plenty of options out there on offense. And I think they can move the needle for him. I think Sherfield and, Josh were having a good connection at, mini camp. So, Josh gave him some praise too. So I think that's a good sign for him. I think with the whole DHop thing, I think it was just a luxury if we got him. So I think we have the pieces on offense that we can move the needle without DHop.
Well, let me ask you, Mr. Syracuse, now that DHop's totally out of the picture, do you think it's a foregone conclusion that we will see an extension for Gabe? I'm going to ask all you guys that.
Now, do you mean an extension before Monday Night Football against the Jets? Or before free agent? That's another good question.
That's spicy. Okay.
Do we think Gabe gets extended this summer, or is that something after the season, or maybe even during?
I thought Kev brought up a great point.
I think you'd want to do it now. You might be going here.
It was a teachable moment. What happened with Edmonds?
And you want to do it now because if Gabe pops off, you're going to have to pay him more at the end of the year.
Kev, was that where you were going before? Did you think Edmonds was a teachable moment about if you value Gabe that high, that you need to get this sooner than later?
Yeah, and it was a tell too by Brandon Beane when he referred to maybe the value that the Bills had on him. Love the player was that they don't know how well he could struggle cover in man coverage against running backs out in the flat and throughout the middle. He was very good at taking away zones. Very good against number 2 receivers, believe it or not. The whole game plan, Minnesota game again, was to take Adam Thielen out of the game, and Tremaine Edmonds did that, thus changing the game plan for Minnesota. That's why they started moving the ball. It's pretty it's a very easy correlation. But very good in zone coverage. But that's the defense that Bills needed to stay in. Everyone complains about this 2-high shell. They complain about backing off into coverage against the Bengals, even though it was actually a really good call. They were trying to bait Burrow into throwing in those zones. However, the decision there was maybe we want to run more man, and we couldn't necessarily. Otherwise, we're going to take a strength of our team and make it a weakness. So that's why you wouldn't see the Bills in more press man is the term of the day. Why don't we press man against Boyd or against Jamar Chase? Because quite frankly, their scheme and where they're 10 out of 10 is in those high zones, in taking away parts of the field like he could. So I think that it is a teachable moment because his value, he played really well, and his value to Chicago was way more than it was to the Bills. So they don't want that opportunity for Gabe's value as a number 2 receiver to be more in Green Bay than it would be in Buffalo.
Or on a long enough timeline, you don't want to see the that specific wide receiver market reset like it did with Roquan Smith.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
When did they give Dawson Knox his extension last year? Was that before the season started?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe, like I said, maybe they're going to get Gabe done before the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe after the first preseason game, maybe.
When he likes to do it, it was right September 7th, right before the start of this, right before the start of the season.
You're such a nerd. He knew the exact date. What a nerd.
So
forget not to get down another rabbit hole, but Brandon Beane makes bigger moves than we probably expect right around cutdown day because he doesn't want to just cut these guys. Because
cutdown day is a little different this year. They go from there's no staged cuts this year. If I'm correct, I believe they go 90 to 90.
They fiddled with no cuts for a while now. They've done it before. This is the first year it's been official. But they changed those cut down days many times. I don't mind it because you can cut a player whenever you want. The theory there is that you're going to give a player like a veteran, like the Bills just did with Brandon Bryant. You're going to give him if you're a respectable organization, you're going to cut him August 10th and say, Brandon,
go find a job. Yeah.
Go play wherever. You got a practice squad home back with us in September if you don't get that job you're looking for. But I think the Bills, based on their vet status, are very good about making moves, maybe cutting that player and then picking up just a fodder UDFA to come in for the last preseason game or something. But they will do that. They've been known to do that from all regards. But they've also always messed those cutdowns since COVID. Those cutdown dates have changed a little bit every time just because they didn't want players floating in the streets during the COVID pandemic. So. They've already had experiments with the one cut down day, and I like it, man. Here's why I like it from our perspective. You get 1,000 players on the market or more in September. It's going to make for a wild waiver claim day. I like it more because it puts players, including veterans, through waivers, depending on the time of year it is. So depending on your years accrued. So, it puts everybody through waivers at the same time. So it's going to be very interesting how you strategize with that amount of talent going through waivers and how many of those players you're going to pick up. It's going to make for a very fun day post cuts. That was minimal the last few years.
And I guarantee we'll all be on Spaces talking about it. So
we'll all be talking about XY player cut that we want the Bills to claim. Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't be surprised for a Brandon Beane trade as well.
Brandon Beane's positioned to trade right now. He is positioned with his roster at the offensive line position where I see many people saying the Bills' offensive line sucks. There's many players right now the Bills would rather keep, like Nick Broker, maybe like an Alec Anderson, maybe others that have good rookie deals that they want to keep on this roster, and maybe they traded Mike Bucker or others on the roster that have value. So watch out for trades at the corner position, at the offensive line position, and then what's going to happen on the D line. That D line is as good as ever. We'll see what they do there.
Yeah, highly rotational D line that they're going to need bodies.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the point I was getting at with the D line. I know this doesn't really affect the wide receivers too much because I don't think there's going to be too many trades there. But AJ Epinesa and Boogie Basham, those could be two names to look for mid to late August, where maybe they're performing pretty well, and that rises their trade value. And Beane says, you know what? Let's go get a 5th-round pick for him while we can.
Right.
It's always good because we have 10 picks for next year. It's always good to keep adding them. Never know. Could turn into something.
Now, Kevin, do we know where the Bills are at in cap space right now?
I think that's the one thing we needed. We need you to.
Yeah, we do.
Sure up for
the Bills. The Bills are sitting around $6 million in cap space right at this moment. So
Okay.
we'll see how that plays into their roster decisions. I still think that they could make some financial roster decisions, whether it's extend out players. Taron Johnson's a pretty big extension candidate. We talked about Gabe. Gabe will eat into money. Taron will actually free up some money. So there is some moves that they can make. Will they keep Saran Neal at a 3.4 value? We'll have to see if they decide to go that way, or they want to go younger and give Alex Austin a chance to make the roster. So we'll see how they go at a couple of these higher values. Saran Neal needs to be a dynamic special teamer at $3.4 million. So we'll see how it all plays out, but there are still some financial decisions that they can make as they cut down to their final 53. But the value as a top 51 is how it's counted for today until September. They have about $5 to $6 million in top 51, banking on the fact of keeping their highest 51 salaries. They could take some players down here and put them in the top 53 pretty easily.
See, I remember when I went to Brandon Beane's town hall the Sunday after the draft at the field house, people were asking about DeAndre Hopkins left and right. So I guess just tying this all together to kind of round out the show tonight, Brandon Beane said, because first the little kid asked him, he was like, Brandon, what about DeAndre Hopkins? And then a couple of other adults, but he was getting peppered with questions.
they always use the little kids as a shill.
It's like it's like autographs, man. It's like go in there, Johnny, go in there.
Yeah.
Up.
I mean, but then again, you got all type of psychological issues if you're asking for another man's signature and it's not for a check. So,
Kevin and student, we know how it goes.
But Brandon Beane kept saying, if you can find me a wide receiver or anyone who wants to play for $2 or $3 million, let me know. So again,
that's what I was referring to with Cook. Yeah, with Cook, if he's willing
Hopkins.
to take that money too, Kevin. If Cook right now, that's really where it gets interesting.
Yeah. So with that being said, how do we feel about Hopkins getting that $13 million? Like, are we content with where we are at right now, salary cap wise? Brandon Beane being a genius that he is and saying we're not going to overpay for that. Would you guys find that as an overpay? And is this roster and salary cap? Are we in a good position with where we are at right now on 7-1-6 day?
I agree. I think we are. I think we're in a good spot right now. Yeah.
I think we're in the best spot we've ever been, but with the most questions to be answered.
Yeah.
Like I said before.
I saw the article that the Bills are in a bad position with their cap is just completely bogus. It's one of the worst articles I've seen. They're in great shape. The reason you don't take on a contract like Hopkins is so you don't push any more void years out. They're in fantastic financial shape. I was told this year they were $30 million over. It's time. The window's closed. It's all over. Season's done. And they go outside Poona Ford, Leonard Floyd.
Get Taylor Rapp on a steal.
Cameron Dantzler.
Yeah. Cam Dantzler it is a wild card for the roster, and Cam Dantzler, I think he has what it takes. That's why I think you can trade someone like Dane Jackson. But there is some names that they went out and did, and Connor McGovern. I mean, they went and totally read David Edwards. They totally rehabbed many positions. So not only did they get under the cap, they went out and made some big D-line moves, O-line moves. To them, they signed some receivers. I know it's not our favorite names, but they really do like Sherfield a lot, who plays four phases on special teams. They really like what Hardy can do, a Tyreek Hill light. So there's many things that they did this offseason when I was told it was all done and the window's closed. It's never going to be closed.
I'm going to say it. You guys are going to hate it. Be as good as you can for as long as you can and just hope to get lucky.
I mean, it really does.
Brandon Beans agrees, and that's what matters.
At some point.
Thank you guys again for coming on tonight. I think this is one of the better ones, guys.
Yeah.
Truly. Tommy Giambra from the Undercovers cast, Kevin Massare from Cover One. I'm blessed to be on such a highly regarded podcast with Mr. Kevin Syracuse for the Buffalo Fanatics. So it was my pleasure having you in my home. And honestly, I hope I learned from this, and I hope a lot of our listeners did too tonight.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I don't want to just completely shut it out. So if you guys have anything else that you want to say, we'll stick around for a couple more minutes. It's 10:55. We'll say, maybe around like 11 o'clock. So if you guys have any other final comments, questions, concerns, whether it's about DeAndre Hopkins or anything else that we discussed tonight, or just about this conversation in general, we'll stick around. And while we wait for more comments to come in, do you guys have any final comments?
I think I'm good.
I think you see some discussion in there about O-line, some miscommunication about O-line changes, and I see some discussion about like how are they going to run the ball. The Bills made significant O-line changes. They brought in a hand-selected Connor McGovern to man left guard. If you watch the draft, they brought in the best right guard prospect. His knock on him in Osiris Torrance is that he doesn't play 15 positions. He just plays right guard really good.
And he plays it really damn well.
Yeah, you could try him elsewhere, but really his specialty is just right guard. And now in 2023, that is a knock on it. Is. I mean, it is a knock on a player to just play one offensive line position. When the Bills historically, like Ryan Bates, you have Alec Anderson, you have many players that are playing multiple positions across, Tommy, you have players playing across different positions across the O-line. That is how they like it. Connor McGovern can as well. So it is, they drafted in the 7th round, Nick Broker. So they do like that position versatility in that. But Osiris Torrance is going to be a plug and play right guard. Now you have Ryan Bates in a depth role playing 3 interior offensive line spots. You bring in Brandon Shell, who by all accounts turned the Miami offense around. I was told that he was really good at certain stretches last year at right tackle, so he's going to be there. The offensive line is much better this season. And one where they were ranked going in. Most people don't remember this. Analytically, they were top 10 last year in terms of going into this season. They had some injuries and did not play up to speed. Spencer Brown's injury kind of played a role in that, and a couple other things happened there. But going into the season, they were 8th advanced analytics and fell all the way down in the 20s. Now we'll see if they can climb back up to the single digits with their advanced analytics as the season winds down. But the depth is great there.
With all these players playing so many positions, sometimes the best ability is availability.
Correct.
And they didn't have it a lot last year in many position groups.
That's correct.
I see we have a couple more questions here. So we talked about this. I'm not sure if we gave a set answer. Paul says, do we extend Gabe now or wait till midseason? So what do we come up with on that?
I'm just gonna be straight up. I'm gonna defer to Kevin. He seems pretty dialed in on this one.
I personally believe that if it gets done, it will get done in August, early September, before the first pass is thrown by Josh Allen. I do believe that before that Monday night game, you would hear about it. If not, an extension could still come, but then now you're thinking March.
I'm thinking it's going to happen between now and the first preseason game. That's what I think.
If the Bills know they can move money around and that they're not needing to save a little goose egg from potential of DeAndre Hopkins, the potential of Dalvin Cook, whoever it might be, you could bet it gets done sooner rather than later based on some of the discussions I've heard.
Yep.
Now, with your question earlier, I'm blanking on it. There was a point that I was going to make. And I'm gonna have to.
It's not about my standing with the IRS, is it?
No. It was something about any big splash moves. So when you said, "Do you think there'll be any big splash moves?" I said no. I think the splashiest move could be like a Gabe Davis extension. I don't think we're gonna bring in anyone like a Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Hopkins type of player, but I could see one of these extensions, maybe like a trade, like we're talking about. Maybe Epinesa gets dealt. So I guess it's your definition of how big of a splash puddle are you making? I think, how big is that puddle when you're jumping in it?
Well, I think if you want to categorize a splash move as maybe is there a heartbreak cut, like a Jackson type cut, Fred Jackson type cut. I think it's a splash move. That's kind of what you're more so looking at. It's going to be almost hopefully addition by subtraction. So to speak, that you're going to give a young guy a chance and you might lose kind of not so much a locker room guy, but a familiar guy. Like, not preying on anybody's downfall, but DeMar Hamlin might he might see a cut, and that's going to invoke a lot of emotion, or you might see a long-term cut on that offensive line just because we're so depth intensive going to training camp.
I think Hamlin should be okay because obviously we all know what he went through. Well, but I think looking at the safety room, there's a big gap between him and the 5th safety because it goes Poyer, Hyde, Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin, and then who's after that? Dean Marlowe, Zane Anderson.
Can Taron Johnson go back up top from all these years playing in the box? I don't know. But I'm saying the splash move might be it might be a splash cut
From within.
Yeah.
Interior.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going to evoke emotion as it should, because we've been dealing with a pretty cohesive team for most of this run, and there's a reason why we can all rattle off so many names on this roster, even to the third depth line in your offensive line, is because these guys have been stalwarts in constant appearances, and a lot of them have real game experience, and a lot of them are hopefuls that we've been hopefully cultivating in our culture to see real meaningful reps. So in terms of the splash move, it might be a splash move that they might not be wearing the red, white, and blue this year at Ralph Wilson Stadium or New Era or Highmark or where it hit the big bucks. So that's kind of
there's always one tell in terms of surprise cuts is guaranteed money. Now, if you look across the roster right now, you have Tyler Matakevich, who's on a pretty sizable guaranteed contract. He's not going anywhere. David Edwards would cost the team more to cut. So there's a tell there that I don't believe the Bills anticipate, cutting those players. Obviously, Taylor Rapp, you guys talked about him. Wouldn't see him then going anywhere. The big one for me is Tim Settle, would cost a team $800,000 more to cut him. So that's basically as safe as it gets. Now, when you look at the other side of the coin, you have Saran Neal as someone that could save the Bills $2.5 million from cutting right now. So is that a potential one? Here's one that I have that's going to be kind of funny for you guys.
Give it to us.
$2 million savings with Jordan Phillips. I don't know that he's 100% on the roster.
Oh, you're gonna get some people mad.
And there's tells with how Brandon Beane structures his contracts. The more you know Brandon Beane and how he structures his deals, the more you can get some intel into who might make the final roster. So he's up there in positions. To me, that's a weird contract to me. When everyone else was getting these guaranteed lower end deals, he didn't. So there's some money to be saved there. So watch out for maybe Saran Neal. Watch out for Nyheim Hines. Watch out for Jordan Phillips.
Yeah.
These are just names that financially make sense. Not saying they'll all get cut. I'm just saying that it checks the boxes of players that could get cut based on their contracts. So those are a couple of the three names that I have kind of pinned out for you. The interesting one on DeMar Hamlin, though, because of what happened, his contract's fully guaranteed. So interesting, the Bills can basically roster him for the same cost. So it would get into a weird scenario, but I do believe as long as he's healthy and doesn't retire for whatever reason, I do believe he'll play out the majority of that contract. It's the Bills. Not only, he was their second safety last year, but being their fourth safety should only relegate him to special teams. And really he would need multiple plus injuries to see like real extensive playing time. So I think the Bills will feel pretty comfortable with that situation. But those are some names to look out for when you're kind of putting together your final piece of the puzzle. And some minimum deals too, like AJ Klein, Shaq Lawson. None of those are guaranteed. Latavius Murray's is. So there's definitely some tells with the Bills roster because it costs them more to cut the player, pay him anyways, and then pay another player in his roster spot. So they will be cutting players that do not cost the Bills extra money, especially right now with a championship level team.
Nyheim Hines, Kev, how much does that save the team?
Saves them $1.5 million to cut him. And
when you're in a pinch, $1.5 million, that's now no longer negligible territory. That's real money.
It pays Latavius Murray, so cutting him pays him. With
the new rules, the new kickoff rules, that cut half of his job. You know what I'm saying? So
potential. Yep.
Yeah.
Potential to do so.
I was saying that we're going to wrap this up by around 11, but you mentioned AJ Klein, and I don't know when the four of us are going to be able to talk together again. I got to ask you guys. Who's the Bills starting middle linebacker Monday Night Football against the Jets?
I can tell you who I've heard. I can't tell you that it's going to happen, and we don't know how July's going to go, let alone August. But by all accounts,
who would you say?
I will say that I do believe the second linebacker, because I think they're going to go to like a position versatile linebacking core. But I do believe the second linebacker that will win the job in training camp at this stage, until something changes my mind, is going to be Terrell Bernard.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I think he wins it, Terrell Bernard.
So you think the Bills are playing nickel, and it's Matt Milano and Terrell
Bernard? The Bills are playing nickel, dude.
With Taylor Rapp coming in,
I mean, you and I, him, four of us can do this round table all day. The Bills and nickel. It's like a battered spouse. Like they just keep coming back to the chaos. But yeah, Bills nickel. I've heard what I've heard. I would say Bernard. But
Yeah.
Kline's been there. He's been there with this. He's been there with McDermott.
Can Klein beat out Dodson? That's the real battle, really. Klein versus Dodson for that versatile backup.
Dodson wins it.
Okay.
Going to be a good battle.
I mean, we're just a bunch of guys on podcasts, but yeah, these are all they're all viable options, and I think the beauty of it is we don't have to wait too much longer to see who's right and who's wrong and who's going to be out in the field for us. So
1 month, yeah,
1 more month.
Let's go, boys.
Let's do it.
Well, I think that will officially wrap things up for episode 16, which did occur on July 16th. So once again, happy 716 Day as we are recording live here from Jeff's house here up in the Buffalo area. So want to thank everyone who was a part of the show tonight. And we know it's getting kind of late. You might have to work tomorrow, but hope you had a good time with this conversation because I know we definitely did. And want to thank Tommy and Kevin Massare for joining us. And once again, thank you to Jeff for hosting me and his wife. That was
Babe, you can come downstairs now. Thanks, guys, man.
The meatloaf.
The meatloaf. All right, let's play this out, guys. Thank you again. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Peace.
Catch you guys next week on the Writers Club.